Hello, everybody. Thanks for tuning into this webinar about how to start a mastermind. Masterminds are something that I have been passionate about and using in my career and in my business for quite a long time. And honestly, they're one of the best things that I have used, one of the best tools that I have used to help me be the best salesperson in a department of over 200 doing $2 billion worth of business. Masterminds have helped me build my online business as well as grow my offline connections. And I just, my hope for you is that you will catch my excitement and you will realize just how much of an honor it is for me to be able to talk to you today about what it is to start a mastermind, and we're going to look at how you can do that for your business. We're going to look at determining your purpose, the business side of masterminds, why you would get one started, the career side of masterminds, all of those kinds of things. We're going to look at how you should set up and connect with and meet your members, who to get on board. We're going to look at how to how to organize your meetings to have the most impact. And we're going to look at how to boost your member engagement, how to connect with them both on and offline between meetings, how to increase engagement with one another so that your members can connect and get the most value out of the mastermind. Because if they're only connecting between or only connecting during meetings, your group's going to die, and we don't want to do that. So we're gonna look at how you can boost member engagement, and then we're going to touch just a little bit about creating community, what you can do to increase and facilitate that extra a bit of communication and those kinds of things. So we're going to look at that last, and then I've got a special offer for you, an introductory offer, a pre-order price really of something that I'm extremely excited to be able to share with you guys today. So let me load up the PowerPoint here and we will get started. Wonderful. Like I said, masterminds are tools that are used by the ultra successful people. If you look out all across history, CEOs, presidents, people who have just reached the highest levels of success in their profession, they've all had masterminds. There was a quote by the CEO and one of the co-founders of Google, Eric Schmidt, that says if there's one thing that he attributes his success to, it's a mastermind. Well, actually, he says a coach, but masterminds rely on the same principle, surrounding yourself with the right kind of people to help them become successful. So again, most successful people in history, the ultra successful CEOs, presidents, they all use a mastermind. And the mastermind is a tool that you can use yourself. There's nothing that those guys and girls, these ultra successful people have. There's nothing that they have that you don't have access to, especially since you are spending the time to be on this webinar and hang out with me for just a couple minutes. And these are all principles that you can implement in your own life, in your own career, whether that's in your own business, the one that you own, or whether that is, the one where you drag yourself to, or you might love it, but these principles also work when you're going to the corporate America. And I want to teach you exactly how you can start these masterminds, and that's what we're here to do today. And just FYI, again, I've been using masterminds, the principles, before I really called them masterminds. I've been using the mastermind principles that I'm going to talk about today since, almost a decade. I've been intentionally surrounding myself with people who will push me, keep me accountable, who will give me wise counsel, and who would give good information to when I was much younger, and I don't want to say impressionable, but when I was at the beginning stages of my career, long before I realized I was an entrepreneur and wanted to start my own business. So keep that in mind. These things apply to anyone at any stage. And then here in the last year or so, I've started using paid mastermind groups as part of my business. In the fall of 2014, I reached out to a handful of people and I said, hey, I've got some people like you who are asking the similar types of questions. You're all in the same stages of blogging, maybe podcasting, moving towards becoming an online entrepreneur. And if you are interested in, or if I start a mastermind, would you be interested? And I had about an 80% close rate using the principles and the techniques that I have as part of this pre-order package. So let's go into this. The first thing that you need to do is you really need to determine the purpose of your group. Now, why are you wanting to start a mastermind? Think about what it is that brought you here today. Why are you tuning into this webinar, taking time out of your Wednesday afternoon? Why are you doing that? Think about that for a second. Think about why you're interested in starting a mastermind. And let's take a couple steps back and let's look at what a mastermind is. Let's just define it how Ellory defines it. So at least here at the very beginning, we are on the same page here. So I define. Well, let me grab a drink. So I define a mastermind group as a group of people who get together for a specific purpose on a regular basis to help each other achieve their goals. And mastermind groups keep each other accountable. They provide encouragement and feedback and provide much needed support. And it's not a social hour. That's the key thing. We're not talking about going to happy hour, grabbing a drink with your friends, something like that. It's about business. And it is also something that is incredibly fun. Now, every week when I see a mastermind-related event on my calendar, I run a few paid mastermind groups like I mentioned before. I'm also a member of a couple, one at this point, actually one as the point of this recording, one mastermind group that I'm just a member of. I don't lead that one. It's not part of my business, but I learn about business, but I'm more peers with some of those people. And every time I see one of those kinds of events on my calendar, I get really excited. And my mastermind meetings are truly one of the best parts of my schedule. And if you start a mastermind, I know they will be one of your favorite parts of the week as well. But again, we're talking about purpose. Why should you join a mastermind group in the first place? Much less start one. But why should you join one? Well, I'm not saying you can't be successful if you don't have a mastermind, but every single person who has one or who is successful, they have one. And when I worked in corporate America, like I mentioned before, I used to share my goals of making money online, doing business, selling ebooks, blogging, podcasting. I used to tell my coworkers about that, and many of them, even though they were aware of the blog and the podcast, they thought I was kind of crazy. They looked at me like I was a little bit nuts, and they didn't quite understand. And that's why you need to start a mastermind group. You need to surround yourself with people who won't look at you like you're nuts when you tell them about your dreams. And that's part of the reason why I'm so passionate about that. And I'm so passionate about creating this space where you can share what you want to do in life and not have people think that you're just being weird. And why should you start a mastermind group of your own? Well, my first mastermind was started by a friend of mine. We had met at New Media Expo, and we clicked, hit it off, and we started a mastermind group. That was my first one. We're still going, and it's fantastic. So fast forward a few months later, about 6 to 8, And many members of that group are now making hundreds and thousands, not hundreds of thousands, but hundreds and thousands of dollars per month for their side business. And all of that, I think, can be tied directly to being part of a mastermind. And if that doesn't sound like a whole lot of money to you, it doesn't sound like a whole lot of money to me either. However, these guys still have full-time jobs. They're still got their main corporate gig. They're preachers, cops, car salesmen, those kinds of things, and they're making this money on the side, and they're able to do this, get the feedback they need, the encouragement they need because of a mastermind. So let's skip to the purpose part. Why you are starting a mastermind? Well, you tell me. Although this is kind of a one-way communication here with a webinar, but you tell me. You've been thinking about that for a couple minutes. It's yours. It's your group. It's your mastermind. This is your life. Take the bull by the horns and be selfish. When it comes to when it comes to your mastermind, you are in the driver's seat, and you are the one giving directions. And once you get other people in the car, things can change. But for now, once you've got the purpose in line, you are in control. So before you even start, before you reach out to those people and say, hey, I'm starting a mastermind, I want to do this, you need to determine what you want yourself and then your members to get out of your mastermind. When they come to the meetings or after they've been there for 4 or 5 months, what are they going to get out of it? So the purpose of your mastermind could be to help each member start a business. It could be to get that raise or the promotion or climb the corporate ladder, which is bull, by the way. But it could be to do that. Hopefully you're not blaring this on your speakers at work and you just blared my language on your speakers. But I have a feeling this isn't the type of webinar that you might be listening to at work. But if you're all in the same industry, you can leverage this kind of these partnerships, these collaborations with your other mastermind members, and even refer each other customers or become customers to one another. But that's one way or one purpose of a mastermind group, to help each other start a business. And that first mastermind that I talked about, that's kind of why we got started too. And your mastermind could also be there for accountability. I know there are a lot of fitness groups out there, fitness-related mastermind groups out there, and they just want to keep each other focused on weight loss, keep each other focused on that goal, not eating the cheeseburger, eating the salads, and all those other things. So it could be for accountability. It can also be just for the meeting of minds and the sharing of ideas and this collaboration. And that's an excellent purpose for your new mastermind, and it's one of my favorites. And if your goal is to collaborate with like-minded people, you can be less particular about who becomes a member because you want to diversify. You can diversify your membership if not everybody is the same. So the next thing that we want to talk about is getting the right people on board for your mastermind. And if you remember the analogy, or if you've ever read, and if you haven't read this book, you need to. It's Good to Great by Jim Collins. And he talks about getting the right people on the bus, getting the wrong people off the bus, and then and only then, figuring out which direction where that bus is going. Well, masterminds are a wonderful way to get support for any project that you are working on. And you can call them your mastermind, your board of directors, your accountability group, whatever. But probably you are using a mastermind right now, if I had to guess. Most successful people are using some sort of mastermind to help them become successful. So who should be in your mind? Or sorry, who should be in your mastermind? Well, this is key. We talked about purpose, but the who is as important, if not more important, than the purpose. If you have a bad apple, it will spoil the barrel. I know that's kind of an old saying, maybe not even kind of an old saying. I know that's an old saying, but it is so true, especially when it comes to your mastermind. And if you have to convince somebody of the value of a mastermind, by the way, if you have to say, hey, this is something that we're doing, something that I'm excited about, this is the value that they provide, stop wasting your time. That person's not ready to join your group. And the right people on the bus. I could have changed this slide to say getting the right people on the bus, but on board sounds a little bit more universal for people who haven't read Jim Collins' book. But Collins' philosophy about getting the right people on the bus and the wrong people off the bus applies to this mastermind. And if you want to be successful, you have to get the right people together and then figure out where you're going. And if you've already figured out your purpose, you're going to be filtering either applications or your friends, your coworkers, your peers. You're going to be filtering people through that purpose filter anyway, so you're not going to pick somebody that's going in a different direction. But here are a few ways that you could group your members. The first way, let's see, we're going to go over 3 different ways that you can group people. We'll look at the 2 types of groups, how big your mastermind should be, and how to best make it work. But how should you group your members? The first way is by goals. People with similar goals, like I mentioned before, they can collaborate together and create a healthy competition. I'm a huge capitalist. I'm a huge fan of competition, and I think both of those things make everybody better. And when you're talking about your mastermind, you want healthy competition. I remember one of my mastermind members said that he had his first $1,000 day through sales of his online product. He had made $1,000, and we were all kind of in shock. And a few weeks later, I knew I had to do it. Well, I didn't hit 1,000, but I think I hit 964 on one day, and then I hit over the course of about 5 days, I hit about 2,000. But that 964 was my largest day, and even though that's a good chunk of money, and I was excited, especially for the 2,000 there in the week, but I didn't hit the 1,000. And I'm still a little bit jealous, and obviously I'm still remembering that. And this was, it's got to be 5 or 6 months ago. But that healthy competition is great. And if you're all focused and moving forward together, you and your mastermind group can build a lot of really excellent, awesome momentum together. You can also group people by background. And if your members have a similar background, you can share old war stories together and motivate one another with the desire to never go back. Now, you got to sometimes be careful if those war stories are the same, and you have to make sure that your mastermind doesn't slide into negative, just a gripe fest. Whenever I got too many dissatisfied people together in corporate America, in my corporate job, it quickly deteriorated into, for lack of a better term, a bitch fest. All the things that were going wrong, all the things that we wanted to change, all the ways we were unhappy, that in corporate America, that's not good. In your mastermind, it's terrible. Cut that out. Just cut it out. The third way that you can bring your members together is by experience. And as I mentioned, this first mastermind group I keep referencing, we met at New Media Expo, and that's if you meet together at an event. We've got Podcast Movement coming up here in a couple months, and that's another fantastic reason to start a mastermind group. But if you decide to build your mastermind group, be really intentional about keeping things positive. None of those gripe fests, none of that, because a negative person will poison this group. Like I used the analogy before, like a bad apple will literally ruin the barrel. It's the same thing. When you introduce that toxic attitude into your mastermind group, things will go down really fast. But if you set it up right, the members of your mastermind group will become your friends. I can truly say that the people who are in my mastermind groups, the ones that I'm a member of, the ones that I lead, any one of those guys and girls are welcome at my house anytime. And that is not something that I would have said a couple years ago when I was in corporate America. I just love these guys. They're close friends of mine. And even the ones that are paying me as part of my business to be in these masterminds, I have the utmost respect for them and want to do everything that I can to help them become successful. And you will develop those kinds of friendships with your mastermind group. So set it up right, get the right people on board. Well, there's two types of groups. There are, and I've kind of alluded to this all along the way, but there's the we're in this together versus the let me learn from you mastermind. And the we're in this together group is like my first group, the ones from New Media Expo. The we're in this together group, if you set up your mastermind as a group of people in the trenches, fighting as brothers, your best bet is to host that as a free group. Now, I don't know at this point if you're thinking free group versus I'm going to start charging people as masterminds, but if that's how you want to set it up, if you're not all that far in your journey yet, go with the free groups. You're going to get more value by surrounding yourself with these right types of people that will encourage you and keep you accountable and all that. You will get more value from starting these off for free than you would if you had charged hundreds of dollars or hundreds of dollars even per month for that. When you're just starting out, you need that. Sorry, got a phone buzz there. Until you're a few steps ahead of the people in your group, you'd be better off by just having their support in your corner than charging for the ability to meet with you. The other one, the Let Me Learn From You Mastermind group, is a little bit harder to set up, and it takes, I don't want to say it takes more time to start up, but it takes you more time to get ready. You have to have at least some area of expertise so that you can turn around to the people who are following in the path in your footsteps and say, let me lead you. But this could lead to some really incredible and honestly insane results of growth for your business. And if you meet with people who are further down the path than you, you will see how they think and how they will learn. And you can turn around and teach them better and teach other people who are like them better. Plus, you might be surprised by who would be interested in joining either one of these types of mastermind groups. If you have something to offer, and I believe if you're listening to this, you are already thinking along the right lines, right? And I believe you do have something to offer. And just by putting it out there, just by hosting the mastermind group and having yourself as a member, whether you lead it or not, you will start attracting the right people. Well, how many people should be in a mastermind? How many is too many? How many is what is the perfect number of people to have in your masterminds? Well, in short, 3 members isn't enough, and 7 is too many. So anywhere between 4 and 6, and that includes you. If you have less than 4 total, including you, and somebody misses, it kind of turns into an awkward conversation. If it's more than 6 or more than 7, it's hard to coordinate who's talking. So my suggestion, 3 isn't enough and 7 is too many. So just from a math standpoint, if you like the numbers and you plan on doing the hot seat, which we'll get to here in just a minute, if your mastermind has 6 members and meetings last an hour, which is about what most people dedicate to their mastermind meetings, if you have 6 members and every meeting lasts an hour, everybody talks for 10 minutes. That's pretty easy. You could shave it down a little bit to an 8 and give everybody a kind of a welcome hello. But if you have 7 people in your mastermind, that equates to just under 9 minutes per person. And at that point, the math becomes a little bit too difficult. And it doesn't work. 4 to 6 members seems to be the sweet spot anymore. And meetings are a little bit crowded. and any less, and there's just not quite enough energy. It's like if you've ever done a podcast and your first one's by yourself when you're alone talking into the room or staring at a wall, and you don't think that there's enough energy. It's kind of like a mastermind group with less than 3 people. So how do you make it work? Well, if you're not excited about your mastermind group, your members won't be either. And are the people you are inviting to your mastermind, are they the ones that you want in your life? If you did part 1 first, if you determine your purpose, and if you've got the right people on board, hopefully every member is someone who you could potentially be good friends with. So setting up people that have the right types of personality, the right kind of schedules. Scheduling, honestly, is one of my my biggest challenges, because in one mastermind group, I've got people. Actually, I don't have anybody on the East Coast and the West Coast all in the same one, but I have Central and Pacific and Central and Eastern time, and scheduling. So scheduling's somewhat of a headache, but getting those right people on there and on the bus, that's the key. So that's how you make it work. Just make sure everybody, we don't have to agree, but we need to get along. We need to have a professional courtesy. So part 3 here. What are we looking at next? How do you host awesome meetings and bring your members together? Well, this is one of my favorite parts. This is where a lot of people get lost. They want to know how they want to know how to get everybody together. They don't know how to do it. So I'm going to share a few resources that I use to help get these masterminds going, how to get everybody meeting together, communicating with one another. And after all, masterminds are the meeting of minds. So if we don't get those minds to meeting, it's just it doesn't work. So let's see. Let's go in here. So when should you meet? Well, let's quick recap now that we've talked about the who and we talked about the why. Now we're going to look at how we do it. So when should you meet? Well, I've had mastermind meetings at almost all times of the day, from 6 a.m. to some that have ran probably, if I was honest with myself, up until almost midnight. They started at 9 p.m. and they just kind of went long. Some of the 6 a.m.s, they go to 7:30, and then a couple members stay late, and sometimes it goes to 8. So I've had mastermind meetings at all hours of the day at multiple different days of the week. Well, while I'm not a morning person, I'm kind of tired right now. I didn't sleep well last night. Would love to go take a mid-afternoon entrepreneur nap. While I'm not a morning person and I'd much rather stay up late and then sleep in, I really like my 6 a.m. mastermind, and it's one of my favorites. Nothing against the other ones, but these 6 a.m. masterminds are some of my favorites. By getting up early and meeting with other entrepreneurs before we go to work, we set the tone for the rest of the day. And it's like if you've been talk to people about journaling or going to the gym, it's best to do those things at the beginning of the day. The same principle applies to your mastermind. And there are power in mastermind groups, and there's also power in taking your day by the horns and telling your day what you want to happen instead of the other way around, playing like the sailboat and just letting things happen. Combine the two and you have a recipe for success. That is the mastermind and taking the bull by the horns. My suggestion is you start your mastermind early in the morning and have them toward the beginning of the week. Monday through Wednesday, anywhere from 7 to 11 a.m. start times. And though I have had those late night mastermind groups, they do tend to have less energy, and they also tend to turn into those kind of gripe things, all the things that went wrong during the day, instead of taking the bull by the horns and saying, this is what I'm going to do today, this is what's going to happen, it turns somewhat into a, man, today was cool, or man, today kind of sucked. So just be conscious of that. So where should you meet? Let me share, I don't know, 5 or 6 different resources here on ways that you can connect with your mastermind groups. The first one is Google Hangouts, and that's how I'm doing this webinar, actually. It's a Google Hangout on air, and one of my mastermind groups meets via Google Hangouts, and it works okay most of the time, but we don't do a whole lot of advanced things. We don't record it. We don't do a lot of screen shares. We just have guys, crawling out of bed, and on the East Coast, they've been out of bed. I'm crawling out of bed at 5:45 to go put on some coffee, and we do Google Hangouts for that. The next one is Appear.in, and if you've not heard of Appear.in, it's Appear. .in as the web URL, and it's really basic too. It doesn't allow you to record. It there is a chat, and it allows you to share your screen, and there's no login, which is really nice. Anybody can go to an Appear.in page, anybody can sign up, and anybody can go to a browser, type in the URL, and log in. And where Google will allow you to have up to 10 participants, 10 people, 10 mastermind members, if you had 2 groups that wanted to meet together, for example. Appear.in only has 8, so 10 on Google, 8 on Appear.in. Also, there's no way to record, and since it's also not available on every browser. The next way, and this is one of the most popular video conferencing tools out there, but it's my least favorite for running a mastermind group, and that's Skype. And Skype makes updates every few months, like every major software does, but sometimes their API, which is the code that allows Skype to talk to other applications, it breaks. So if you want to record any of these meetings, while you can do that with an add-on to Skype, like Pamela or Call Recorder, that's how a lot of podcasters do it. That's a $30 tool, and it's not built into Skype. And plus, while Skype is kind of the go-to for podcasters, it doesn't run in a browser, and it's not really great for medium-sized groups. Skype is great for one-on-one. I've heard of people having issues with 3 people. Rarely do people use it with 4 people, and beyond 5, I haven't heard anything good. So just keep that in mind. And again, Skype is a software program that you have to actually download, and it's an app on your computer, phone, all those other things. The last one, and this was my favorite, and I didn't start off using this tool, but once I found it, I did testing for about 2 weeks, some pretty heavy testing, and immediately moved all of my mastermind groups, all of my coaching clients, and if there was a way to embed their video on my website, I would use it for webinars too. And actually, you can use it for webinars, but instead of going to my website, you would have to log in. So hopefully, as you're watching this on the webinar page that I emailed you, no login, nothing like that. Well, that tool, the one that I use, is called Zoom. At zoom.us. That's their web address, zoom.us. And it is the best solution for my mastermind groups. And let me tell you why. First, they offer dial-in numbers for participants, for your mastermind members. I did not think this would be an issue when I started my first mastermind, or the first one for my business anyway, but I had people asking me, is there a call-in number? Because the time that it is to make sure everybody could coordinate correctly, our schedules and whatnot. Some of them, if they leave work a few minutes late, they're still commuting when we start, and they wanted to have a dial-in number. So that they could dial in from their cell phones. Second, at any point during the meeting, I can start recording with just the click of a mouse. Now, those other ones don't have any recording abilities except if you have Camtasia and want to record a screen, but Camtasia is $200 or $300. Or you can get Pamela or Call Recorder for Skype, and that is $30 to $40. Zoom, it's like $9 or $10 a month, where you can get a whole year for less than $100, I think. And it's fantastic. Screen sharing, there's a chat function, and then when you're done, the free version, there is a free version of Zoom, it'll give you a 40-minute meeting. If you have the pro version, you can have an unlimited meetings. Once you're done, it will start rendering that video. It'll start producing an MP4 that you can watch back, and it'll also give you a transcript of all of the chat, or all the things that people said in the chat, which is pretty awesome. The downside of that free version, again, is that 40-minute time limit for your meetings. Everybody can refresh their screens and come back. It's kind of a headache, but it will kick everybody off. And I like Zoom because it allows up to 25 participants. And while that's 3 times more than Appear In and 2.5 times more than Hangouts and Skype, you probably won't need that many for your mastermind, for one. But what if you had 2 or 3 and you wanted to get them all together? And that's one of the things that I am starting to do with my masterminds. We have a book club, and having the ability to get everybody in there all at once is really kind of awesome. And while, again, you really shouldn't have more than 6 to 7 people in your mastermind, you might want to have more than 10 someday. I do experts calls with my membership site, and the expert and I will do video calls, and then I'll invite all of my members, all of my mastermind members, and all of my coaching clients to participate, and that's way more than 10. So just keep that in mind. And it's not necessarily all that expensive, $100 a year, $9 or $10 a month. And again, I prefer Zoom because I have extra controls as the host. I can mute people on entry, enable or disable, that chime when people join. And again, I can get that transcript, which is kind of nice. So if there's private conversations, I won't get that. But anything that people say in the public chat, any questions people ask or comments or links to resources, I can get a transcript of that myself so that I don't have to be paying attention to that while things are going, or be able to share those resources with somebody else. And then how often should you meet? Well, when you're talking about getting these awesome meetings together and bringing your members together to meet, really, from my research, every 10 days is about the best. It's more than a week, which gives time for people to get stuff done, and it's less than 2 weeks, which seems to be a little bit too long. And people that off week, an entire week of not meeting, spirits can kind of sag, and people can get tired and worn out, and they need that little interim boost. So again, meeting weekly is a little bit too much. Whenever I have had weekly meetings, I kind of get overwhelmed. There's a constant sense of pressure to perform and deliver and have something ready for the next meeting. And then again, every 2 weeks is just a little bit too long between the meetings. So what I end up doing is I meet every 2 weeks, and I try to call my members or message them on Facebook, get in contact with them so they know somebody's out there rooting for them. They've got someone fighting them in their corner and pushing them in the direction that they want and need to go. So how do the meetings work? There's a couple ways that you can facilitate your meetings, and we're going to go into 4 different ways that we can do that. We're going to look at the hot seat model, the book club model, the teaching model, and the guest speaker model. So what is the hot seat model? Masterminds have been been putting members in this spotlight, which is kind of under the microscope, since the concept was introduced, well, maybe over 100 years ago, but really about 100 years ago when Napoleon Hill introduced the mastermind concept. And the hot seat is where a member and his business is the focus for that meeting. And we generally look at three different things: what they're working on, what's working for them, and what isn't working for them. You can also take a SWOT analysis approach: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and have your members go through those as part of their hot seat experience. And this hot seat is extremely popular because it gives everyone the chance to share their wins, which they get to brag on themselves, and get feedback on what they're doing. And members are put under pressure 1 week, and then they have time to make those adjustments for a few weeks before they're back under the spotlight. And if you have 4 members, every person's on the hot seat roughly once a month. And that's not a bad schedule. The next model is the book club model. If you're new to the mastermind setup, this is a great way to give your group more structure. I mentioned the book club that my masterminds are doing. Right now we are reading To Sell is Human by Daniel Pink. Another book of my masterminds have read is 20,000 Days by 20,000 Days and Counting by Robert D. Smith. We've also read The Millionaire Messenger by Brendan Burchard. And if you have this structure of the book, books are laid out in chapters. They're often in groups or sections. Dividing those into where you hit a couple chapters every week and talk about it, that's a great way for new mastermind groups and leaders like yourself to have that structure where you don't have to necessarily create it. It's easy to say, okay, every week every 2 weeks we're gonna cover 100 pages, or we're gonna cover chapters 1 and 2 this time, and then 3 and 4 next time. That takes some of the pressure off of, everybody. And that's a great way. The teaching model, and this is, I kind of do a hybrid of all of these, by the way, but the teaching model is after your mastermind group has established itself and your members are seeing results, they are making their first sales, they are launching their products, they are creating things on their own, it might be time to mix things up. And the teaching model will allow you to do that. Once your mastermind groups have gelled and the members are a little bit more comfortable with one another, because you've been using the book club model, for example, it's important to keep everyone on their toes. Complacency and disinterest are a cancer to your mastermind group, and if your members aren't focused and moving forward, your group will die. And as soon as one of your mastermind members achieves a win, have them turn around and share how they did it. That puts it does two things. It puts some pressure on people to perform, and also puts some pressure on people to be able to analyze their successes and turn around and share them. And once your people are getting results, they need to be able to talk about them. And we want to learn from you. If I'm in your group and you do something really awesome, you sell out an event, or you create an event, or you start making money, I want to know how you're doing it, so I can do the same things in my business as well. And then finally, there's the guest speaker model. And just like the teaching model, the speaker model focuses on education. The other two are more results and impact and accountability. But the guest speaker and the teaching model are all about education. And the only difference is that the teacher is a guest speaker. And I do one of these once per month. Again, that's that experts call that I mentioned before. And it's really fantastic. And what's cool is it's what happens when one of my masterminds from 2014 introduced a guest speaker, and he ended up becoming a member. And that was really an incredible opportunity for us to learn from him. And then he liked the group so much, so we voted and we said, hey, let's invite this guy in. And it's been incredibly valuable for me personally, and I think for the rest of the mastermind as well. And the guest speaker model is a great way to introduce new blood or infuse new information into an already thriving group. The guest speaker will not keep a mastermind from dying if it's already headed in that direction, but if your mastermind group's already successful, it will only make it more successful. So what's next? Where do we go? Where do we go from here? We want to boost member engagement, and we want to create a conversation. How do we do that? How do we get these people from around the country, maybe around the world, interacting with one another outside of those meetings? And I mentioned that at the very beginning. If you're just interacting, you're just chatting with people during the meetings, you're missing out on a lot, and your group is probably going to die. And by the way, you've probably seen some buttons pop up on the sidebar and below the video, and those buttons right there, the big yellow buy now buttons, will take you to PayPal, where you can pre-order the how to start a mastermind package. Normally it's going to be $97. Right now, we are going to sell it for $47, so half off. How do you boost member engagement? How do we do that? What's going on there? Well, it's all about communication. It's all about connecting with people in the downtimes, in the fun times between meetings. And right now, at this point, if you've already done the other things, you've got the right people on the bus, the wrong people off the bus. You've got your mastermind group meeting for the right reasons. You've got to connect with them. So how do you communicate with your members when it's not meeting time? There's 4 ways to do that. And I look for ways that are easily accessible, easy to use, that a method that fits into a daily routine, and a way that will catalog those messages so you can go back, filter them, find them, what you're looking for. The first way is email. And email is great. Everybody has it, but it's not that great, actually. You wonder, if someone's email doesn't sync, or someone responds out of order, you wonder, what's Johnny talking about? Because they, again, responded out of order. You have text messaging and group chats. My wife text messages all the time. When we looked at our phone plan, I think I had 120 for the month, and she had like 600 or 700, I think. But those, there's not a whole lot of function there. There's instant communication, but nobody's going to scroll up to see even what people said. They're going to say, what's going on? What did you say? So there's that. You could also do forums. There's like Buddy Press in WordPress. A lot of sites have forums. Forums were huge back in the late 90s, early 2000s, before we had social media. So there's that. And then you get Facebook groups. And I had a big debate on whether or not I wanted to use Facebook groups for my masterminds. Long story short, to save you all of my headache, most of my headache anyway, I said yes. That's one that I want to use. Now, here's some statistics for you. 65% of monthly Facebook users, people who, if they visit Facebook during the month, 65% of all of them visit every day. So 65% of people, if they're going to visit at all, they're going to visit it every day. That means over half of your audience, and therefore most of your mastermind, is likely to visit their Facebook page and scroll through updates every single day. So Facebook groups are a great way to do that. They're a great way to connect, especially when people, on average, are spending 20 minutes of every day browsing through likes, comments, pictures, and all those other things. So because we use Facebook so often, and because it's already a part of our lives, I use and recommend private Facebook groups for your mastermind groups to boost member engagement and to continue, if not create, that conversation. And I had some hesitations. I won't go into the details. You don't own the content. Facebook does. But the benefits of using it far outweighed the downside. And I'll go into some of those downsides in the thought process and things for you to consider in the How to Start a Mastermind program. So if you have questions about that, you will find the thought process and help you make the most educated decision there. So how do you boost engagement? Well, a couple things. Again, we talked there just briefly about the Facebook group. I also try to like and comment all of the things that are shared inside my Facebook groups. I also try to call every person on those off weeks. Remember, we talked about the ideal meeting frequency to be every 10 days, and we decided to go with every 2 weeks. Well, phone calls are a great way to connect with your members on those off weeks. I also send handwritten notes on actually handmade cards. I partner with another entrepreneur, business owner in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and she makes handmade cards for me, and I get them from her, and then I handwrite. Yep, I grab a pen. I sometimes have to scratch out a word that I misspelled. All those old-timey things. I send cards and I make calls. I also started a membership site to help my members learn during those 2 weeks of downtime. You know, I've got a lot of information in my head, and my members said, "Hey, Ellory, how I wish we knew, or I wish I knew what you knew. How do we figure that out? How do we get access to that information when we're not on a call?" Now, the next thing that we want to talk about is how do we create a community? And I'm only going to briefly touch on that. I don't have a slide for that one yet because the content is being reserved for everyone who buys or pre-orders the How to Start a Mastermind.com program. But I'll give you some idea about what that part 5, what that creating the community has to deal with. And we're talking about adding files and uploading things for other people to give you feedback on. Just yesterday, I shared something to get feedback on, and several times over the last 6 or 7 months, people have shared links to their landing pages. They have uploaded their giveaways, their bribes, and said, "Hey guys, what do you think about this? Does this convey the message that I think it conveys?" And they were able to get feedback on that. How do you get information about one another categorized so people have access to it? If you want to have addresses so that you can connect with people, or birthdays, where do you keep all of that information? If you want to keep, like I think I mentioned before, one of my friends started a vegan food mastermind, and how do they keep recipes? What do they do with all that personal information? They don't want it out there just for anybody to access, but how do you create a place where you can keep that information private but still accessible? And we want to look at creating a community because, again, it's not about the time you spend every 2 weeks for an hour on the hot seat in the teaching model, whatever you decide to go with. It's not just about that. It's also about connecting with people and building those relationships and how you can develop long-term success for your people. Now, that's what part 5 is. And I'm going to throw up this slide here for you because that button, I think I might have put in the wrong link on that button, by the way. I will get it fixed for the replay. So if you try it right now and it doesn't work, leave me a comment, shoot me an email or something, and I will give you the one that works, because I apologize. And once I started the recording, I didn't have time to mess with it. I didn't want to divert my focus away from talking to you. So what else are you going to get if you register for the How to Start a Mastermind program? What else is going to be included? Well, we're going to look at ways that you can find people for your mastermind. We're going to look at how to handle agreements, how to handle commitments and non-disclosure agreements. We're going to look at why you should join a mastermind group, or the benefits of that, and why you should host one. We're going to dive into some of those kinds of things as well. We're also going to look at the 7 types of people that are toxic for your masterminds. We're going to look at, let's see, I have a list here. Sorry. We're going to look at other ways that you can increase engagement. We're going to look at how to create downloads so people feel like they're getting the most value, how to charge for Mastermind. It's going to be an absolutely incredible program. Again, normally it's $97, but since it is not yet released, since we're taking pre-orders only, it is only going to be $47, and I highly recommend that you check it out. Masterminds, being part of one, leading one, they have changed my life. I don't say that flippantly. I don't say that just casually. I would not be where I am today without my mastermind groups. I would have not have been the sales rep of the year. I would have not gotten the Team Rockstar award when I was working at Dell, had it not been for the masterminds that I was creating without even knowing it back in the late 2000s. And then my business would not be where it is today, where I'm hanging out on a Wednesday afternoon talking to you virtually. I would not be able to do that and have clients all over the United States if it weren't for my mastermind groups, the paid ones and the ones that I'm a member of that I don't charge for. My wife and I have an opportunity. It's somewhat of a secret, but I trust that you won't share it with too many people. We might have the opportunity to travel to Australia and New Zealand for maybe an entire year. And had I not been leveraging the power, the success principles that I have learned through the mastermind, I wouldn't be able to do that. The answer would have been no. When she got that offer, we would have had to say no, because I couldn't have taken that much time off of work. Or if I was tied to this location here in the Round Rock, Austin area, I wouldn't be able to do that. But because of meeting the people that I've met, learning the things that I've learned, and connecting with a global community of people, and because I have these masterminds, I may have what really is a chance of a lifetime to be able to travel and live in New Zealand, where they made The Lord of the Rings, all those kinds of fun things. I wouldn't have that opportunity had it not been for my mastermind, and I want to show you exactly how to do that too. We are out of time, so go to this URL. Let me change the slide here. Go to howtostartamastermind.com. And that will allow you to register, pre-order the How to Start a Mastermind program. It will be digitally delivered to you. It will show you exactly everything that you need to do. It will take what we have talked about in the webinar today, and it will expand on it tenfold, and you will have hours worth of content in pretty much a foolproof system that will help you start a mastermind, that you can leverage these success principles that CEOs, presidents, and extremely successful people have used for hundreds of years. It's not just for the rich. It's not just for the famous. These are things that you can begin implementing today. I'll leave this slide up for just a couple more seconds. How to start a mastermind.com. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. I'm Ellory Wells. I wish you all the best. And if you do start a mastermind, tell me about it. I'd love to hear your success story when we meet again next time. Thank you.